Hi everyone. Got a full moon coming up. Can you feel it already? The energy is certainly intense, and we are in eclipse season now. So this full moon in Virgo is coming with an eclipse. This is about illumination. Of course, it being a full moon, that offers illumination to us anyway, and it's perfect to work with the lunar energy to release on a full moon. So there's a lot of messages here around detachment, but with an eclipse, this could be absolute revelations and clarity coming forth, heightening that energy of illumination. So it can be quite intense. I've said before in other videos, because of the other astrological insights and transits that were going on then, that this is actually a big spiritual awakening energy that's going on within the collective. And I still feel that that is happening. Okay. So there is a lot here about closing out cycles as well in order to move into the new. And that's because we're getting to the end of Pisces season. And therefore, we're going to be starting Aries season, which is officially the new year because it's the new astrological year. Never mind all this calendar stuff, which is man-made. This is about the astrological new year, okay? So we've got this full moon in Virgo coming up. And for us in the UK, it's happening on the 14th, which is this coming Friday. And it's happening in the morning, okay? And I'll pull up the chart and I'll show you the time when it's going to happen. Just less than 24 hours after this full moon in Virgo with eclipse, because let's not forget that, we've got Mercury stationing retrograde in the sign of Aries. So we're already in pre-shadow of Mercury retrograde, and you may have already felt that because the energy has been quite funky, and that can happen with a Mercury retrograde, as we know. Obviously, with any kind of retrograde, it's a perfect opportunity for us to introspect. But we have already got Venus in retrograde because she stationed retrograde shortly after the new moon we had in Pisces. And that, for all intents and purposes, in my view, opened up the eclipse portal. So, you know, Mars just before that had also just stationed direct in Cancer. So we had a little bit of free time. And then we had the new moon in Pisces. Venus then stationed retrograde. And you know, we are now building up to this full moon eclipse in Virgo, Mercury station in retrograde the following day. And then next week on the 20th, we have got the start of Aries season. Okay. So anybody who is an Aries that's got a birthday around that date, check out your solar return because the sun will ingress into Aries on the 20th of April for us on GMT. Okay. In the UK. So that comes with the equinox energy as well. So it's like bam, bam, bam. Let's just get all this energy here. And not long after that, Venus is actually going to be retrograding back into the sign of Pisces as part of her retrograde. Okay, so she's kind of going to be transiting back across that cusp, if you like, between the end of the zodiac cycles and the beginning, but going backwards because it's retrograde. So that's going to highlight a few things for us. It's very intense energy we've got at the tail end of Pisces into Aries. So there is a massive message here about closing out cycles. And the energy that is surrounding all of this is big because we've got big planets that are going to be moving from Pisces into Aries. Okay, so it's all building up to a lot of detachment, a lot of closing out cycles. Okay, and into the new. But after this full moon, you know, in a couple of weeks' time, on the 29th, I think it is, we've got the new moon in Aries. And that also comes with an eclipse. So yes, we're right in the middle of eclipse season with a Mercury retrograde and with all this other stuff going on. And by the way, Mercury will station retrograde in Aries on the 15th, okay, the day after the full moon for us in the UK. And then he's going to retrograde back into Pisces as part of that. So it's, again, it's just heightening the energy of this end point, okay? I will pull up the chart, show you in a bit more detail, but we've got a lot coming up. And it's definitely about closing things out to move into the new. If we think about the full moon just on its own, okay, full moons, great for illumination. And the lunar energy is perfect to work with for releasing and detachment. So you see there's a bit of a theme here. And with an eclipse, that is further illumination on a big scale. So this is kind of like a whoa, clarity, kind of epiphany, that sort of feeling. And I've said for a time now, because of what's been going on in the astrology, that there is a lot of the energy around that I associate with spiritual awakenings. Okay, so there's a lot of that with stuff that's going on with other planets, okay, and the energy generally. There is a lot of people, or are a lot of people, that are waking up, okay, to the reality, to who they truly are. And this means that there's recognition for what is no longer in alignment with us on a soul level. So therefore, cycles are coming up to be closed out or transformed in some way. Remember, Pluto is in Aquarius. This is the age of Aquarius, and this is profound transformation in our reality. Okay, so there's big energy going on, and there has been for some time, as we know. But we look at Virgo as an energy, okay, and Virgo likes to be in control and likes to know what's happening, likes to plan, okay, great for scheduling, all of that. The shadow side is sort of trying to control outcomes, being too much of a perfectionist, okay? But there is order to Virgo, and it's very grounded because it's earth energy. But remember, it's mutable, so there does need to be some flow to it. Now, if we look at the full moon in Virgo, in a simple way of saying, okay, this is about illumination of aspects or areas where we might need to detach from cycles, situations, whatever it might be, patterns, where we've tried to control the outcome of a situation. Perhaps where we've tried to put expectations on something that it has to be this way, it has to look this way. And it's recognizing we need to dial it back on the perfectionist and have more of a surrender, which is the Piscean energy, the opposite sign, and understanding the flow. The mutable energy works with both. But yes, we can be grounded and we can be realistic about things and certainly plan things, but maybe we need to surrender to the outcome of things a bit more. And there could be illumination of certain aspects where we have tried to control the outcome and we've recognized this. So it's a pattern within us that we need to release. And that's something we can use the lunar energy to work with. There could be this sudden epiphany of that and illumination because it's a full moon and the eclipse. Okay. It could also be realization of where we might have held ourselves back because we have tried to control the situation too much. So there could be a number of different things if it's resonating at all, but it's certainly relating to our physical reality. And we know at the moment that the South Node is in Virgo and the North Node is in Pisces. So we're heading towards the North Node from the South Node, using that as a springboard at the foundation. But ultimately, it's about moving forward on that spiritual path. And if you're not spiritual, and that word triggers you, this is about like purely being in touch with the soul and your intuition. Okay. So it's being guided by that inner compass rather than what other people tell you, you have to do this, you have to do that. Okay. This is about trusting our own intuition. So the path forward is more of that ethereal essence of the intuition, our higher self guiding us in that direction with flow and with surrender. And that can be out of a comfort zone for a lot of people, even for Pisceans. And I'm a Pisces and I can say that. Now I've got a lot of Virgo in my chart and that's probably why, because the Virgo in me wants to control things. But my Pisces soul is saying flow with it a bit more. So I'm having to learn how to balance these energies at the moment, particularly. Okay, and Pisces are not very good with structure or boundaries and things like that. So with Saturn being in our sign, that's quite intense because these lessons that have been going on, I've been testing that. And this is about navigating forward, trusting the soul, trusting the intuition to guide us where we need to be, but having more of a surrender and not trying to control the outcome. So that's why we're moving away from that. So having a full moon there with the South Node is very much about detachment from that sort of energy, those kind of beliefs, those kind of patterns that we might have held on to before. Certainly for the period of time that the South Node is in Virgo and the North Node is in Pisces, okay, for the next 16 months or so as we've got now. check out your own North Node and South Node, because you might also have a South Node in Pisces or Virgo, for example. So that's going to be, you know, that axis that you can sort of relate to in whatever way. So let's get into this chart and have a look at it. There's not too many lines on it that I've drawn anyway. There is a lot going on, but I've just been guided to show certain things, okay? So I'm going to pull that up now, and then I will show you the chart against the UK's chart to give you context on the house systems. And that's something you can do with your own natal chart to actually understand how those energies could be influencing you right now. But remember, as always, we've got free will in this reality. So this shows us the energy. It shows us the potentiality if we work with the energy, but we have the free will to make the choices. Okay, right, let's pull up the chart first of all. Okay, here we go. Right, so full moon eclipse in Virgo for us in the UK on GMT, 14th of March, which is this coming Friday at 6:54 a.m. Okay, now the time of Mercury station in retrograde, I wrote it down earlier, is going to be the following day on the 15th at 6:47. So you can see it's just less than 24 hours after this full moon. Okay, that feels quite pivotal because we're still in the full moon energy when Mercury stations retrograde. Okay, hold on to your hats for that one. But here we've got the chart of this particular lunar event. It's a freeze frame of the cosmos at the time of the full moon. Now you're going to see the full moon start to get fuller the night before, for example, but this is the moment when it's at its fullest. Okay, so obviously it's going to be morning for us in the UK. We're not necessarily going to see it, but this is the energy of the full moon building up this week. Okay, and then we've got the full moon, and then the energy will still be lingering when Mercury stations retrograde. Now, straight away on this chart, you can see that there is a lot of energy over here, and that's the Pisces energy. It's also a little bit in Aries. But those two planets that are in Aries at the moment, Mercury at 9 degrees and Venus at 7, Venus is in retrograde. That's why on here you can see red digits, okay? When Mercury stations retrograde on the 15th, it will be the same, red, okay? And they will be retrograding back into Pisces. So it's still heightening the energy of what's going on here at the tail end of the zodiac cycle, from the new back to the old and then back again, because they'll retrograde back into Pisces, then they will obviously eventually station direct and move back into Aries. So this is almost like Pluto did the same with Capricorn, okay, previously. This is about going back and cleaning things up that need to be cleaned up at the end of the cycle to then move forward again. And because that's Mercury and Venus, that relates to, you know, communication, where we are actually speaking up for ourselves, getting our thoughts in check as well, but also, you know, our values. And this all relates to sovereignty. This relates to ourself. What do we value in ourselves? What are our values? Are we owning our worth as a sovereign being? Are we standing up and speaking up for ourselves as a sovereign being? And if there's any aspects where we feel we can't, because, you know, certain things have been illuminated to us, okay, there's that illumination, full moon eclipse, then it's giving us the chance to go back into Pisces, indulge in that spiritual energy, i.e. check in with the intuition, okay, and be guided through the soul's truth in terms of what is still needed to learn in order to close out those cycles and then move forward into that new beginning, that new cycle, that new start. But Pisces in itself is jam-packed with energy because we've got Ceres, Saturn, the Sun, North Node, and Neptune. Now, Neptune is at 29 degrees. That is the final anaretic degree that a planet or planetary body can be in before it moves signs. It can be the intense degree because it's right at the end of, guess what, a cycle. It's right at the end of a cycle because it's right at the end of a zodiac sign. So it's trying to close things out before it moves into the new sign. So before Neptune can put the crown on on the head, on the crown chakra, moving into Aries in that sovereign leader of my own life way. This is about closing out those cycles within Pisces, okay, where perhaps, you know, spirituality, spiritual essence, intuition has been tested. Also, any kind of confusing energy, any deceptive energy, but anything that might have actually tested your own magic. Okay, and that sounds quite out there. I am a Pisces, so, you know, bear with me. We are in Pisces season, so I'm indulging in that. However, you know, this is about recognizing, you know, because we can relate to situations where perhaps people have, you know, tried to sway us from our own intuitive insights about things. And perhaps there is recognition of this because, you know, we're going to be moving into that almost spiritual sovereignty, okay, of Neptune in Aries. And it's very much about, you know, Aries is a very masculine sign because Mars rules Aries. So there is that masculinity to it of empowerment and the self, and actually wanting to take action based on what we want, okay, as an individual, because Aries rules the first house. So anything that could have challenged that might be coming up to be closed out in that way. We still need to have that connection to the ethereal. Neptune does rule Pisces, so this is still a benefic position, but we are at that cusp of moving into Aries with Neptune. So it's about, you know, spiritual sovereignty, or the sovereign soul, feeling empowered as a sovereign soul, moving forward into Aries. And North Node there, you know, that is again the spiritual path. That is about the path forward, trusting our intuition to guide us where we need to be, and releasing any sort of patterns where we've not had that belief for whatever reason. Okay. When Venus retrogrades back into Pisces, that could highlight because we don't feel worthy of trusting our intuition, for example, or our values are not in check with that, whatever it might be. The sun is there. Obviously, that's the soul essence of the cosmos, supporting the Piscean energy at the moment. Okay, and the spiritual path, the intuitive path, and actually reminding us as well that we have this ability within us to manifest our reality. Okay, but it's not just as simple as saying I want that, I want that. Okay, but it's a reminder that we've got the capability within us to do this, and what we visualize comes about. That is our reality that we experience. Okay, so it's getting all of that in check with what our intuition is saying is right for us from a higher self perspective. And Saturn, of course, wanting us to get in alignment with our spiritual truth, testing us like you wouldn't believe, because Saturn likes boundaries and rules, and that's something that Pisces doesn't really, you know, follow. Doesn't like to put boundaries in place. But this is a reminder that boundaries are needed if we're protecting our spiritual integrity. Okay. And Ceres, this is about planting the seeds of our reality, and what do we want to plant to then receive, you know, to come to fruition. So there is manifestation energy with that as well, I feel, and that feminine nurturing energy also. Okay, I know I went on a bit about the Pisces energy, but just from looking at the chart, there is a lot going on in Pisces, and we have to respect the fact that we have got that capability within us to tap into our intuition, to tap into source energy, and it is a gift. It truly is. But conditioning, layers of trauma, patterns, limiting self-beliefs, other situations that go on externally, you know, can influence or can make us not believe in ourselves and our capabilities. And this is reminding us to get back to the magic within. Okay, this energy It's about the path forward. It's about connecting to our intuition. And it's not about being woo-woo and all this kind of malarkey that is just being glamorized at the moment, which isn't right. Okay. This is about the absolute connection with the soul, because we are a soul in a human body, not the other way around. Okay. So we need to nurture our soul and what our soul is guiding us towards. Okay. So this is why, you know, when Venus and Mercury, as part of their retrogrades respectively, will, you know, retrograde back into Pisces, that is going to kind of like heighten that energy of the values, the worth, and also if we're speaking up for ourselves, but also connecting to our intuition, because that is our communication with our higher self as well. Okay. Right, let's look at the full moon. Okay, so over here in the opposite sign of Virgo, there's the moon, obviously directly opposite the sun for a full moon. And we've got the south node there as well. Okay, so on my chart and the planets and planetary bodies that I display on here, that's the only other thing in Virgo. Okay, so we know there is something about detachment from the past where we have tried to control the outcome of things, or where perhaps others have tried to do that for us. Could be maybe where we've been too much of a perfectionist, or perhaps where we've you know, wanted something, but we have to have it in a certain way. And this is now asking us to kind of release that expectation of outcome and to surrender more to the flow of it. Okay, so again, Virgo likes to be organized, likes to plan, likes to be in control. So it can feel a bit out of the comfort zone to not have control over things. But this is saying, look, okay, is that actually for our highest good, that we're trying to control every single thing? Is there recognition here that things might show up in a different way? So we're trying to manifest what we want in our new reality, but we're being specific. And specifics can be okay. But there's also this element of, you know, needing to surrender to, you know, the outcome of how things are going to unfold, and that can be unsettling for a lot of people. So it might be that we're just getting called to look at those aspects where we've tried to overly plan, overly control things, to detach from those, to learn from those. So we're carrying the wisdom forward, because obviously we're moving from south node in the direction of the north node, and that's going to carry us forward because that wisdom is in our wisdom bank, that's within our soul, and we're carrying that forward on our path. Okay, so it's important to have that as what I call a springboard. It allows us to have that foundation and to know that yes, we can certainly plan things, we can certainly do that, but then we need to just release expectation of outcome. And that's what I feel the message is here. Okay, so detaching from cycles that might have been a bit too overly controlling, or perhaps, you know, where things have to be a certain way, and it's like, no, we need to realize it can come in a variety of ways, and that is the beauty of it, and looking at it like that. Okay. And it is also, I will just say, with Virgo and Pisces, you know, it is that 3D versus 5D. So we are also at this you know, moment in time, this moment in history, straddling these two dimensions. Those of you who relate to this are going to know what I'm talking about. So we are trying to navigate this 3D reality, because that's Earth school for us. It's a 3D reality, and that's why we have the gift of free will and the ability to make choices for ourselves. Okay. But we've also got that intuitive capability, the 5D ethereal essence, that we connect with source energy, our higher self. Okay. So we need to have that balance of the two. We need to be the dreamer and the creative, and we need to also be grounded as well, because we are in this reality. But it's about balancing it and not being overly kind of, it has to be this way, it has to be this way. No. Okay. Perhaps there needs to be more of a mutable flow to allow these energies to work together. Okay. And it's also, you know, sort of that the hidden aspects, which is the more intuitive insights and subconscious sort of thoughts and patterns and beliefs, and then what is actually revealed in the physical reality as well. Okay. So a lot of that could be coming up to the surface with this full moon because of the eclipse as well. Okay. The moon is in trine to Uranus in Taurus. Okay, so that's harmonious, and both are in earth signs. Okay, so it's very much about the reality again, and Uranus is about change. Now I do feel, because Uranus can be sudden change, that this is, you know, where this kind of illumination and sudden epiphanies could come in, because it might be that the full moon and the eclipse combined actually bring this kind of sudden epiphany that's going to trigger the change that's needed within the physical reality. And because of the Taurian energy, there is definitely something about, you know, stability and security here, as well as worth and values. So we need to feel worthy of the change we want to create. Obviously, our values need to be in check with what we're trying to create for ourselves. But also, you know, we want to feel secure. And this is why with the Virgo energy, if you look at the two, and we want to be in control of things because we want to feel secure. So there is that harmony between the two when we look at the signs here, because yes, of course, we want to feel grounded, we want to feel secure, and we want to feel in control of things. This is sort of saying, okay, it's the realization of what needs to change within those patterns that can trigger the change in our reality. And it's the realization of that, excuse me, the epiphany of that. Okay, so they're working in harmony. And also when you look at Uranus rules Aquarius. Okay, so that is definitely about new reality, it's about innovation. So by doing something new, or by being open to the new, that is allowing us to break free from those cycles where we have tried to control things, because we know we're going into a new reality and change is inevitable in that respect. So there is something about acceptance of that, it feels, as well. And when we look at Aquarian energy as the collective humanity, because of course Aquarius rules the 11th house, that's to do with connections with others, and on a bigger scale, you know, humanity here, this is about, you know, within humanity, that change is happening, and we are needing to detach from cycles that are not serving us in our reality, because we're moving more into that connection with our intuition to guide us forward, what feels right to us within the soul and what doesn't feel right to us, and trying to release the control that the Virgo aspects can bring. Obviously that's good, okay, for the reasons I've mentioned before, but when we're trying to detach, we're trying to detach from the unhealthy attachments to that. Okay, now there is a Sesky square that's going to Pallas, who is in Aquarius there. Okay, so there is a minor challenge here because of, you know, perhaps strategizing based on what we want to fight for. So Pallas in Aquarius is that divine feminine energy. It's kind of a warrior spirit energy. It's like Pallas Athena, and it is about, you know, fighting for the new reality that we want, and understanding that there is challenge in doing that, because we need to understand what we've got to detach from first in order to then fight for the reality that we want. But equally, that is triggering us to detach from situations, because if the new reality that we're wanting to fight for includes more of a surrender, and we know we've got to close out cycles to get to that point, that's great, but it might feel challenging because we know we've got to detach from certain things. And if we want to be in control of our reality, that is where there is that minor challenge. Okay, but if we look at, there is a trine. I haven't marked it up on here, but you can probably see the line with the triangle that's going down to Jupiter. Okay, there is a trine there. Jupiter doesn't particularly like being in Gemini because it's opposite to Sag, but there is potential here for expansion when we can get on board with this. Okay, so when we are fighting for that new reality that we want, then that offers expansion, but we might need to be logical. We might need to look at things from different perspectives in order to get there. We might need to investigate things a bit more rather than being reactive in situations. So that also echoes the message of going more with the flow. Okay, and away from that controlling aspect of wanting to know X, Y, and Z about every little thing. Okay, so again, the harmony is there, the trine is there with Jupiter and Pallas to say, yeah, we can fight for what we want. It's going to offer expansion, it's going to offer hope. Okay, and Jupiter can expand the positive and negative. And I notice here there is a sesqui square with Lilith. Okay, so what can challenge that expansion for us are the shadow aspects that come up, or suppression of our deep desires of what we want. And, you know, we're trying to balance out our reality. We're trying to make things fair, that Libra energy, certainly within our relationships. Well, shadow aspects could challenge our expansion. So we've got to be on board with what we're trying to create for ourselves, the transformation that we're trying to, you know, create for ourselves, if you like. That transformation we're trying to step into, that's what I was trying to say, you know, and how we can actually be quite strategic about it, but in a non-controlling outcome way. We can have a goal, you know, that is the outcome that we want, that's our goal, but how we get there might be different. Okay, we might need to surrender to that. If we don't have a set goal, but we know we want to head in a certain direction, that's where we release control of the outcome. You know, we know we're on this path and, you know, we could end up doing this, we could end up doing that. You know what I mean? It's kind of not being so rigid, but still having a goal, because that's the reality we want to create for ourselves, but just releasing expectations. Okay. And the other thing here that can be challenging is we've got Mars in square to Chiron. So Mars is in Cancer at the moment and Chiron is still in Aries. So the collective healing journey relates to our sovereignty. Okay. And, you know, it's definitely related to the self and how we see ourselves as a sovereign leader of our own life. Do we believe in that? Do we stand up for ourselves in that respect? And Mars, of course, rules Aries. Mars is in Cancer and doesn't want to be in Cancer because he's got to feel feelings. It's a masculine, dominant planet in a very feminine, nurturing sign. So this is about Mars having to take a bit of a chill pill and be nurtured through acceptance of feelings that need to be processed before action can be taken. And that can feel uncomfortable as well. So obviously he's out of that retrograde now. He is, you know, moving forward in Cancer. So there is momentum now. But he is not going to be in the sign of Leo until the 18th of April. So that's just before Taurus season starts. So he's got to get through the last moments of Pisces and the full zodiac cycle of Aries before he can move into Leo and really embody that sort of courageous energy when it comes to action and to be seen and recognized for that because of showing up as that Leo self, okay, in that fire sign energy. But until that point, feelings have still got to be felt. So the challenge here is challenging the healing journey of the sovereignty. So do I really feel sovereign if I've got to feel all this stuff and I've got to go through an unhealthy ego death and I've got to shed these layers, I've got to detach from these cycles, and I've got to feel all of this beforehand, and it's tough and that can challenge the sovereignty. So there is this kind of feeling with Mars that he's got to just keep going, because the momentum is building. And obviously Aries season is going to then amplify, you know, the Aries energy of the warrior spirit. But Mars has still got to feel these things. And it just feels prevalent to me that when he moves into Leo on the 18th of April, that this is about, I'm here, right? I can be seen, this is what I want to do, taking action. And it's not to say we're not taking action between now and then. Of course not. That's ridiculous. We are. But this is the bigger picture here about certain things that we need to feel before we can act on them. Okay. And things are being shaken up to the surface for us to see in order to feel those things. And these are all part of the Saturnian lessons, you know, because Mars has been in this grand water trine for quite a while. And Cancer is the cardinal energy. So it all starts from having to feel those things and process them first. And that's the best way to do it. We can't just block out those feelings. Inevitably, we have to feel them in order to move forward and to understand where we might have held ourselves back from certain action that we've needed to take. Certainly when he was retrograding in Cancer, you know, that's introspection on where action hasn't been taken potentially because of feelings, because of not wanting to admit feelings, accept feelings, process feelings, whatever it might be. Well, this is the best way to do it, because then the growth within the soul is immense, and that is empowering the sovereignty even more because of closing out cycles naturally through that evolution, through that healing journey, through that growth. Okay. Right. Fabulous. The other thing I wanted to mention is that Juno over here in Sagittarius is in trine to quite a lot of this energy over here in Pisces. Okay. So particularly, you know, I'm drawn to Venus. Okay. Because Venus is there at 7 degrees retrograde in Aries. Now, I know that this is not the opposite sign, okay? It's not the opposite sign, but it's a trine. This is harmony, okay? And this is about, so it's basically what I'm trying to say in a roundabout way, is it's fire energy, okay? Now, Aries is the cardinal energy here, so it starts things off. Sag is mutable, okay? But we've got a lot of energy there in Pisces, which is also mutable, and that trine is going to some of that energy as well. So there is a bit of a mix here. But Juno is about, you know, love and marriage predominantly, but I view it as love and commitment because marriage is a commitment. And I also look at Juno as representing soul contracts, okay? Here, what I feel is that this is a reminder about commitment to our journey moving forward and ensuring that we have our values in check in relation to this because of this journey, because of everything that we've got to go through with the eclipses, with the retrogrades. It's having our values in check, it's owning our worth in that respect, but committing to the journey, committing to the quest of discovery that all of this is going to bring up for us. Okay, and not being afraid of that. It's being open to it and committed to it because we want to understand more about ourselves. We want to understand if we've still got some healing that we need to do. We want to understand what our intuition's telling us. So it's commitment to the journey. It's having enough love for ourselves in order to be committed to the journey of discovery in this respect. Okay, that's what that feels like to me. The opposition energy is going down, okay, to where I say where Jupiter is. That's because that's the opposite sign, but there's more of that opposition energy to Uranus actually when you look at this. And you know, obviously change in our reality is going to kind of give us that push pull, because as things pivot and change in our reality, you know, it might make us feel like, oh, you know, I can't fully commit to this path because I don't know what's happening. And again, going back to that control of the Virgo, it's almost like, oh my God, I can't because I feel out of my comfort zone and but it's being committed to the path regardless. Okay, it's understanding the fire energy here of Sag, which is that motivational energy to learn more about what's going on, to actually understand more. And definitely when it comes to empowering our sovereignty, it's a willingness to do that. And the growth and expansion is naturally going to happen because we learn more about all of this and what the full moon eclipse is showing us. And then we know what cycles to detach from if we don't already. Okay, so it's that wisdom, it's committing to the wisdom that is going to be revealed to us. Okay, if that resonates. All right, so there's the chart. And just to round off with, I am going to just show you the chart against the UK's natal chart. Okay, so UK's natal chart is in the middle, that's the inner wheel, and then what I've just shown you is actually on the outer wheel. So, and the lines represent what I've just shown you on the chart as well. The full moon will be happening in the 3rd house for the UK. That relates to our expression and communication. Okay, so yes, there might have been aspects where we've tried to control how we convey ourselves to people. And, you know, if we've actually held back on speaking up, which is more of that, what I feel, more of what the Mercury in Aries is kind of saying about speaking up, standing up for ourselves. But the reason why I say this is because it's to do with our expression. It's the 3rd house. So we need to detach from those aspects where perhaps, you know, we have tried to control our expression in a way to people please, or because we haven't felt confident enough in ourselves to actually do that, or where we've tried to sort of like, you know, a situation has to be a certain way, so I'm only going to say this, you know, this needs to be the case, so I'm not going to speak my whole truth, I'm going to be like this because I'm trying to control the outcome. Those are just examples. Okay, we know Lilith is sat there in the UK's natal 3rd house as well, so again, shadow aspects and suppression of deep desires because of trying to control things too much, and perhaps trying to control that sense of expression within the self because of not wanting to be vulnerable. That's just something coming through to me intuitively there. Okay, now we've got here the South Node and Vertex are there, but obviously Vertex point is going to be in a different sign. But there is something definitely about a fated moment for this full moon with eclipse to definitely detach from the past in order to restore balance and harmony in situations. Okay. The full moon is sesqui square to Pallas. Pallas is in the 7th, and the full moon in trine to Uranus is in the 11th house. Okay, so definitely looking at where change is happening within connections with others, and how, you know, we're trying to detach from certain patterns of that controlling sort of Virgo type energy. Okay, in order to establish the change that we want to see within our connections with others, but equally how our connections with others is shaping that for us, because perhaps that's enabling us, you know, when you think of soul contracts, soul tribe, people that we do interact with, there's a purpose to everything, there's a purpose to every interaction. So, you know, we might actually be receiving insights through our connections with others that's actually showing us what we need to detach from, and perhaps showing us that we've tried to control an outcome with something to do with our expression. So take that on board. Uranus is actually exactly conjunct the UK's natal Venus. So values and worth are part of this as well within our connections with others. And going back to the 7th house, again, relationships with people, places, things. What are we trying to fight for in those relationships with people, places, things? And how can we sort of adapt our approach so there's more of a flow to them without trying to control how we show up and express ourselves in those relationships with people, places, things. And then we've got the square from Mars to Chiron. So Mars is in the 12th for the UK and Chiron's in the 10th. So definitely there is that challenge with the hidden feelings coming up that Mars is having to process, the masculine essence is having to process, and how that might be challenging the inner authority when it comes to Chiron in Aries and that sovereignty. Chiron, by the way, is exactly conjunct the UK's natal sun. So that could be hitting quite hard on the soul aspect when it comes to sovereignty, really challenging the inner authority within, and empowerment of self when it comes to that. You know, when you think of work also, it's about definitely showing up as that empowered sovereign soul, the leader of your own life in a work capacity, but generally from an inner authority perspective, recognizing that there could be hidden feelings coming up that need to be processed before action can be taken in that respect. And the 5th house is where Juno is transiting through. And that trine that's going to some of the Aries and some of the Pisces is straddling the 9th and 10th house. So yeah, when we think of the heart space and we think of that commitment to ourselves, because we want to feel that joy, okay, we need to be committed to ourselves, committed to the fact that we want to feel that joy in order to be open to the quest of discovery when it comes to what we are learning and discovering, 9th house, about our ethereal essence, about what our intuition is telling us, about what those lessons Saturn is showing us, as well as what our sovereign soul is actually telling us relating to our values and worth as a leader, and also our inner authority and how we are showing up for ourselves. So by being committed to the journey and being open from that heart space perspective of wanting to feel joy, but recognizing this is a journey, we've got to go through some of these things, but being open enough to then stand up and show up for ourselves in our communication as a leader, because we're committed to our journey. This is what I want. I'm empowered. I want to commit to this. I know my worth, and I know what my intuition is telling me because I've discovered X, Y, and Z, for example. Okay, there you go. Just some insights. Now, I have got some oracle cards here, so I might just take a couple of cards. Got the Astro deck, first of all. So bear with me, because I actually, I was drawn to using this one particularly. So let's see if there is an additional message for the collective from the Astro deck. Let's see what we've got. What do we have, please, for the collective, for the full moon in Virgo? Oh, there we go. Solar flares activate. Well, yes, this could be an activation. Opposition. Okay, that's about confrontation energy. And there we go, Mercury. So the Mercury retrograde, we've also got 8th house on the bottom. Mysterious. Okay, so there could be hidden stuff coming up, again being illuminated in the full moon. Mercury retrograde might also show us as well, that's that introspection that we need, perhaps to show us where there is confrontation, where there is a butting of heads, metaphorically speaking. And that also makes me think of the Pisces Virgo energy as well, because it's opposition, but we need to work with more harmony when it comes to those because of the North Node and South Node, but also activation. And I feel that's more to do with illumination. So illumination, epiphanies are going to activate the way forward for people. Okay, but understand the messages that might be coming through here in relation to that. And then wisdom of the oracle. See what we have. Okay. We have got soulmates into the sea, and on the bottom, that is exactly what I was saying about the 3D, 5D, straddling the two dimensions between worlds. It's also a great depiction of what I was trying to explain about coming to the end of Pisces and moving into Aries. Okay, the flamingo here has got a crown on his head, so that is the sovereignty, but we need to close out cycles. Now it might be that something still needs to close out. We're aware of it, we're trying to strategize it, we've just got to release expectation of outcome, but we know we've got to close things out. So if we know we've got to close it out and we are putting that plan in place, brilliant, but we need to also be stepping forward with our intentions into the new reality, not staying stuck over here, but moving forward, recognizing there might still be some aspects of closing out. And to the sea is definitely about movement forward, but processing what's coming up as part of that. And soulmates, okay, it could relate to a soulmate connection. Remember, we have soulmates with friends, family, as well as romantic. So this is about what I feel, if I relate to the astrology, I mentioned about other people showing us where we might need to detach from certain aspects, because soulmates are mirrors to us. So it could be that there's that going on that is allowing that activation, that illumination of what we need to detach from. Okay, all for our highest good. Queen of the Moon. Let's end with some sovereignty. End with some sovereignty. We have beginnings. I love that. That was actually in reverse. Okay, I don't often take. Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Sovereignty. But on the bottom, again, their release. Yeah, we've got to detach from things that are not serving us in order to step through that portal of new beginnings. Okay, we are at the end of a major closeout of a major cycle, as well as the zodiac cycle, but there is major energy that is supporting closeouts of major cycles. Release, you know, but look at all of that. When she's releasing that, all that light energy, the transformation that's coming from it as well. This is about our sovereignty. We're stepping into this sovereign way of being. Action is needed, of course. This was the only one that was reversed. So that is definitely about slowing down a bit when it comes to controlling the outcome, and also Mars feeling the feelings before action is taken, but knowing that action is needed. Okay. And that is exactly what I was saying as well with that, you know, knowing that cycles need to be detached from and having that willingness to move forward, but understanding things do need to close out in the appropriate time. Okay. Because if they're not closed out fully and properly, then that pattern is just going to repeat itself again. Okay. But releasing expectation of control, things like that, things have to be a certain way, you know, is definitely important. And I will say, as a bit of a joke, this is a bit of a joke, because I mentioned earlier about me being a Pisces and I've got a lot of Virgo in my chart. My ascendant is rising, my ascendant is rising. Yeah, my ascendant or my rising is Virgo. Okay. And also I have a stellium in Virgo. So I have got a lot of Virgo energy in me as well. And the creases in this tapestry that's behind has been bugging me. But I have to just let it go. I can't control it too much. Okay, it's just the position of it and where my chair is at the moment. So yeah, I just have to let it go. So this is about, you know, the Virgo essence in me is saying, sort it out, clean it up, get it in order. And the Pisces me is just saying, no, just got to go with the flow. So yeah, so it's a bit like that, really. But yes, I wish you all the best. In all seriousness, this full moon in Virgo with eclipse could bring sudden illumination, epiphanies, aha moments, wake up calls, whatever it might be, when it comes to stuff in our reality, you know, because it's Virgo energy, it's earth energy, that pertains to some kind of controlling aspect. And that might be where others have tried to control what we're doing, you know. It could be from that, or it could be from us, where we've tried to control things too much and we wonder why things are not working out. It's like, yes, because you've got to let go of the reins a little bit, have that desire to plan and strategize with that goal in mind, and obviously understand there are steps to get there. That's the strategizing. And that's also, Virgo likes that. That is planning. Okay. But how you might get there, that needs to be a bit more surrender, a bit more flow. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. But certainly, you know, how things have to be, how things should be, what things should look like. It's no, this is not about it should be a certain way. This is about understanding, yes, I want to feel secure, I want to feel comfortable, I want to move in the direction of this particular goal, but I understand that, okay, I can put action in place whilst I'm closing these things out, and understand the path will be revealed to me. And it's about being guided by your intuition on that journey. That's what I feel we're being called to do. Take the steps and then we get guided a bit more, rather than saying, I've got to get to this point by this date and it's going to happen. You know, that's great to have a plan in mind. But what I'm trying to say is the rigidity of it, we're just being called to be a bit more flexible in our approach and surrender to it a bit more. So sending you all the best for the full moon in Virgo with eclipse and the subsequent Mercury retrograde that will begin the day after, as well as everything else that's to come. Okay, so stay grounded and stay true to you. Okay, and honor your soul's integrity throughout this process. Sending you all the best. Take care. Bye for now.